how he felt. Did he believe in his heart that they were absolutely guilty at that point? And we sort of struck up a friendship with, it was very interesting striking up a sort of friendship with somebody who really was 20 years before. It was like a sort of time machine in some respects, because I didn't want to know what he felt now, because it didn't help me playing the part now, if that helps at all.
Other questions? Yes, go ahead. Right there.
Do you consider activism at all part of this art project? And do you see it as keeping the case alive, hopefully to find the real killer and exonerate the West Memphis Three? And if any of the actors are involved in any projects or activism of that kind for any of these projects?
So the questions regarding activism, whether that played a role in your preparation for developing this film and making this film, and also for those actors involved in it, and whether your activism played a role in taking part in this film and keeping this story in the public eye for those who may not be familiar with the documentaries and may come to see this film and learn about the story.
What a great activist response. Well, yeah, it's a clear I mean, of course, this will find distribution and it will be kept alive. I mean, I think that one of the interesting things that has been said about the film is that, well, people have seen the documentaries, but in fact, a lot of people haven't seen the documentaries, and this is a film that's made with extraordinary actors, and it will hopefully find this wider audience, and so people will be exposed to the case for the first time, and actually exposed to details of the case which haven't been explored. I mean, the Chris Morgan strand, the Bojangles strand, you know, the details of what actually transpired in terms of leading up to these arrests. So the film itself, the making of the film, you know, the producers, Liz Fowler and Richard Saperstein and Clark Peterson's decision to kind of like make this film is in itself an act of activism, of course, because it's saying that this story needs to be told. Like Mara Leveritt writing a book, any act of art is an act of activism. It's how it's going to be embraced and what's going to happen as a result. But you know, we try and tell the stories with as much truth as possible, and hopefully people respond to that.
I'm curious, just Colin and Rhys, you've done incredible jobs portraying historical figures as well as entirely fictional figures, and I'm wondering in your acting process if there's a different approach when you're approaching an entirely fictional character versus someone who is existing.
Why stop talking now? It's been a long weekend. Yeah, it does. It does affect how you feel about things. I think Stephen was saying you can't ignore the fact that there's a real life behind what you're doing, and it depends also on how contemporary you are with that person. It's interesting what Stephen was saying about the character then and the character now. In some cases, the character might be dead. It's unlikely that the character is very close in age to yourself and already having a story told about them. That has happened to me in the past. If you've just moved on a little bit in time, and that person's perspective is different from yours, I mean, all of these are variations on how that might be. But the interesting thing is when that person's story is still continuing. You know, there are an awful lot of people that we're telling a story about here whose story is not over. And I think in this case, that's actually rather critical, because we've become part of the story. So much of this is to do with versions, accounts, testimony, who said what, who was standing where, whether that was testimony to the police, or testimony on the witness stand, testimony to documentary teams, the written word, Mara's book. It hasn't stopped. People are going to carry on and on and on telling this. And all kinds of mythologies develop, and there are there's such a craving for certainty, for very understandable reasons, that people have hastened towards that at the cost of any chance of extracting the truth from this. So I think what's happening now is later is some way of trying to make sense of it, to keep the conversation going. And I think critically what Adam has done, I think more in this case than in any of the others, certainly the other film versions, and I think what Mara Lever tried to do as well, is in this desperation for resolution, is actually to open it up again to question, to keep the questions alive, and to make sure that doubt still exists. You know, doubt is that critical word which is given to the jury. You know, the whole justice system depends on it. When you start to try to eradicate that, I think that, you know, the truth is very difficult to find. So I really think that this is an attempt to open it back up and give some hope to actually get closer to the truth.
I mean, I think that from a legal perspective, you can build a case sometimes on circumstantial evidence, but only if every other avenue has been exhausted. And that clearly didn't happen here. And I think that is the crucial. And just to also, in terms of history and renewal and growth and activism, I think one of the most powerful moments for me this evening is seeing the real Jason Baldwin before, and what an extraordinary man he's become, the lightness and the optimism and the hope that Jason now embodies, and then to see a projected image of our version of Jason as he was 20 years ago. And it is audacious, you know, especially when I think it's a mediated event. Like, this event is mediated like no other. Not only with the documentaries, not only the books, but for those of you who are interested, just go online and go to a site like Callahan and see that everything that we're depicting, all the police documentation, all the interviews, they're all there. And you can just go deeper and deeper and deeper. It's just every page of testimony is there. It doesn't end. And it becomes quite Kafkaesque, was the word that we used at one point. Remember when we were talking about this project? It's as though there is, at one point when the defense team said they were exhausted by the sheer amount of evidence, it's very, very troubling, because within all of that, nothing has come close to being conclusive. So it is about how we live with doubt, ultimately, and this very troubling idea of, especially in a religious community, in a place that's, you know, where there's faith, but how do you cope with something where you're not going to have an answer? I mean, it was amazing to watch you tonight, and to see, you know, that Pam is a woman who has faith, right? And that doesn't seem, that system is also something that's troubling to her.
That's something that speaks to recent your portrayal, because it's subtle in your role, but you do get this feeling that there's something much bigger at play within your character that troubles her, and how she deals with this situation.
Yeah, I think, well, Adam has done such a beautiful job sort of finding a way through all of this, you know, material and information, and really finding the humanity in so much of it, and that where there is confusion, you know, it's about finding direction. And I think what really drew me to this, and to be honest, it was first of all meeting Pam, who is a woman from this tiny little truck-stop town who chose to question what was accepted, and she had a lot of strength of character and a lot of fight in her, and always a lot of doubt about what was going on, and I think the way you end the film is really beautiful, because it really is about these three little boys. We don't know what happened to them, and there are really still to this day nobody knows, and I get very emotional about it because I have children, and I think that's where it comes back to is, you know, who's looking, and they're not looking. They're still not looking. I mean, the case is basically closed, and I think this is, you know, hopefully encouraging people to look at this and hopefully dig a little deeper.
There's more questions from the audience. I think this one.